Two vocabulary words I want you to learn on this slide are consecutive angles and alternate exterior angles. Let's go ahead and demonstrate. Consecutive angles, or demonstrate by the pink star. I'm going to move it in. You will see that it's on the same side of the transversal black line and is on the inside of the two lines. We also have another less well-known name for consecutive angle, and it's called same side interior angles. Same side on the same side of the transversal. Interior mean inside the two lines of the angles. We also have another pair on the right side. Next word, alternate exterior angles. I'm going to demonstrate for you with the red star. Alternate mean on different side of the transversal, and exterior mean is on the outside of the two green line that we have. Go ahead and say the word for me. Consecutive angles. Good. Alternate exterior angles. Good. Thus, all angle pairs formed by parallel lines and a transversal. We are done with identifying part. Let's review all the angles and then it's your turn. See how it applies. For corresponding angle, we have 4 different corresponding angle pairs. You can locate it by the different colors and symbols. We have red, green, yellow, and the blue star. So those are 4 different corresponding angles, and all corresponding angles are going to be congruent to each other. If you follow along with the yellow pen, we are drawing the angles. This is the corresponding angle, and here's another corresponding angle. You see, we are forming the letter F in the alphabet. F letter is used to remember corresponding angles. However, if you are not sure how to see that patterns, you can just memorize the name and its meaning. Corresponding mean in the same position. If we're moving the whole line and angle down, or the whole line angle up this way, we can find it in the same positions. Next one, we have consecutive angles. So let's see the letter that is formed by the consecutive angles. We can follow along with the blue highlighter. We have the letter C for consecutive angles, and it's going to be the same on the other side. We use red this time. On the pair for the right hand side, if you follow along with the red letters, it's still forming a C for consecutive angles. These are consecutive angles, and they are not going to be congruent angles. They are going to be added to get 180 degree or supplementary angles. Remember, in the parallel lines, consecutive angles are going to be supplementary angles, or angles that add up to 180. The next one, alternate interior and alternate exterior angles. Alternate interior angles, if you follow with the yellow highlighter, I have this one right here. This is the angle, and here's the other angles. If you follow with that yellow pen, you see it's going to form a letter Z in the alphabet. We can use the letter Z patterns to remember alternate interior angles. Let's do it again with the black pen. We're going to have this angle for the first alternate interior angles, and we are going to go down to the yellow star for the second angles. You can see for the letter in the alphabet, we have letter Z for alternate interior angles. Unfortunately, there is nothing to remember with the alternate exterior angles, but I think that if you remember alternate interior, alternate exterior is the angle that are on the outside, opposite side of the transversal, right? We do have one last one, which is the letter X, and this is for vertical angle. Let's go ahead and mark vertical angles. Do you guys remember this? Vertical angle or opposite angles is formed by the letter X, or two straight lines that cross each other. We also have another pair of vertical angles, and we will use blue this time to show you. We can use this 2 arc to signify that they are congruent to each other. All of these angles are congruent to each other. And I want to point out one more time, if I did not point out before, if we have parallel line, then the angles for alternate interior angles are congruent. If they're not parallel line, the angles are not congruent. Same thing over here. You will notice that we have only one arrow. It could be pointed in any direction to show you that these are parallel lines. When we have parallel lines, signified by this symbol or notation, then the angles are congruent. Just to review, we have alternate interior, alternate exterior. They are all congruent when we have parallel lines. Or when we have parallel line, the angles are congruent. You can go backward and forward like that. Consecutive angles are only available if we have parallel lines. So then the angles add to 180. The next one, corresponding angles. The angles are congruent, again, congruent, only if we have parallel lines. Or vice versa, when we have parallel lines, the angles are congruent. Okay, saying back and forth. I hope I did not confuse you. The only time we're not talking about parallel lines are vertical angles, and yes, they are still congruent, but we don't need them to be parallel. Let's sum it up in the way that I said it earlier. Now, this is what you might see in the formal textbook on theorems about angles formed by the transversal and parallel lines. We have the alternate interior angle theorems. If two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then the pairs of alternate interior angles are congruent. We can also go back and say this is the converse of the theorems. Angles are congruent. We can go back and prove that the lines are parallels. I am going to show you a video demonstrating how you can find all the angle measures from the angles crossed by the transversal.
We speak Spanish! Parallel lines, transversals, and angles, a la schmuck. There are some couples who are just destined to be together forever. Romeo and Juliet, Cinderella and Prince Charming, Paula Deen and Butter. But the greatest couple of them all has to be parallel lines. Parallel lines never touch, but they always stand by their partner. Now that's love. When a transversal cuts across two parallel lines, it forms 8 angles. If the measure of angle 1 is 110 degrees, what are the measures of the other 7 angles? First, we can see that angles 1 and 3 are vertical angles, and we know that vertical angles are always congruent. In other words, they have equal measurements. So angle 3 has a measure of 110 degrees too. It also helps to know that corresponding angles, or angles that are in the same position relative to the parallel lines and the transversal, are also congruent. In this case, the corresponding angle to angle 1 is angle 5. So angle 5 is also 110 degrees. Wait, so angles 3 and 5 are congruent too? Actually, yes. They're both on the interior between the two parallel lines and on alternate sides of the transversal. So we call them alternate interior angles. All alternate interior angles are congruent. And there's one more angle that's 110 degrees, and that's angle 7. So angle 1 and angle 7 are both on the exterior of the parallel lines and alternate sides of the transversal, and they're called alternate exterior angles. Alternate exterior angles are also congruent, and we can check that using vertical angles or corresponding angles. Yep, looks like 110 degrees to us. Those are all the odd angles, but what about the evens? We know that a straight angle, or a line, has 180 degrees. Since any even angle makes a linear pair with an odd angle, any even angle is supplementary to an odd angle. That means the even angles have a measure of 180 minus 110, or 70 degrees. And ta-da! You now have all your angles. So don't forget to include parallel lines when listing the world's great love stories. And as a bonus tip, don't ever try to get between Paula Deen and her butter.
Thanks for watching. I hope you found this video helpful. See you next time.